Hello and welcome to what I guess could technically be the last episode of Arches. It is not the last update for Arches, but it is the finale, I guess. Well, I suppose it's more of a prologue. This is the aftermath of what happens to Devon and Cam after, the whole Echo incident with Brian. Uh, we get to see Artie if he survives, what happens to Devon and Cam's relationship, and yeah, basically that. Ah, so what I mean by this being technically the end of the story, but not the last update is, as you can see, the UI has changed. This used to be up on the left. Orion did a lot of work, and they're actually still going to be doing some other work on the story. So this is not the final update. Not only that, but there will be a short story released later. It's not ready yet, I'm assuming. So yeah, some other stuff is going to change for the eventual final release of this visual novel. But for now, I will only be reading the last bit. The short story and everything else comes later. Not only that, but I think I'll be also redoing the second and third videos that I uploaded because I went back and looked at them. I don't like the audio. I guess because I've been getting, well, I feel that I've been getting better with the audio. I just want to redo those. Might even redo the first one. And in those videos, you'll be able to see like the updated visuals. I was talking to Orion, and perhaps some other stuff will be added, like visual effects and sounds and stuff like that. But yeah, you have that to look forward to if you like Arches further down the line. The devlog said in months, so it's not going to be like next month or the month after that. Maybe later. But yeah, for now, this is just this update. So yeah. Also, obviously, get ready for me to probably cry towards the end. This is the only thing I can tell you, that this is a bittersweet update. Or I guess a bittersweet end. It's not as bad as other Echo ends. Well, like the main story Echo, where pretty much no one has a happy ending. Even the Jenna end isn't that happy because of stuff that happens in the background. That's like probably the best ending for everyone there. But yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I guess without further ado, let us begin Permanence. The terrible change comes almost exactly 3 weeks later. Cameron had been feeling strange ever since they got back home, like he wasn't quite himself. After a flurry of hospital visits, police interviews, and even harassment from the media, things had become strangely quiet. He's a broken road. Brian Dubois was a serial killer with a victim count in the double digits, with all the murders taking place over the course of nearly 4 decades. That would get national attention, of course, especially since Brian appeared to be involved in the high-profile disappearance of a college freshman last year. The body cam footage of their dramatic rescue from the mines even made the rounds on social media. For about 2 days. At the same time, a pandemic was picking up steam, and media attention focused there instead. Cameron didn't mind. The lack of attention made his recovery much easier. His burst liver and severely damaged kidney had left him needing surgery. The hospital did what they could for his elbow, and his doctors were hopeful that with a lot of physical therapy, he could at least use it for basic necessities. While it did suck to maybe never be able to bend his elbow correctly or without pain, what really devastated Cameron was the weakness and near maddening tingling in his pinky and ring finger. So for now, despite him being eager to get back to it, guitar was an absolute no. For now. But what about forever? On top of that, Cameron had been trying to banish that damn voice from his head. No, the negative thoughts from his head, right? Just a flashback, one of the shitty leftovers from his shroom trip. Either way, all he could do was try to ignore it, despite it making itself known at least once a day. Cameron, Cameron, Cameron. Something's wrong. But things continued to feel strange. It didn't seem to be related to his ESP, because he could easily tell when that was happening. Ever since the shroom trip, a haze of psychic ability lingered around him, allowing him to capture thoughts and feelings seamlessly at random. Downloading is what some people liked to call it. He didn't have much control, though. Sometimes, he wasn't even able to tell if the download he was receiving was from the living or the dead. Cameron even began to try and hone his abilities and experiment with just how much he could do. What he quickly figured out was that without some sort of illicit substance, his clairvoyance lacked a great deal of fuel that had powered his abilities in Echo. That would make it easier, and so would being in an active location like Echo, of course. Echo is one of those locations, though, obviously, but there are so many others. He's a desert lake. Every now and then, Cameron would find himself pausing, like at the back door of Devon's house, as a chill would run down his spine. That feeling always meant an echo was attached to something, somewhere nearby. That's what Cameron called the beings, not exactly intelligent or even living, but entities that interacted with and usually threatened the living. In that particular case, it emanated from under the back porch. When he told Devon about it, the bear knew immediately what Cameron was talking about.
Oh yeah, I hear something moving under there all the time, like a person crawling around. Even Dad says he saw red eyes under there once.
Being more sensitive doesn't exactly answer questions, though. Like, why is it there? Where did it come from? What the hell is it? All he knows is that it's not a person, and it never was a person. Because they're all demons. And while Cameron had seen the old spark of interest in Devon's eyes, he had told Cameron to just ignore it and focus on their visit for now. Devon just wanted everything to go away quietly, like it never happened. That included Cameron's abilities. That was at the end of the second week, and over the course of his life, Cameron would look back on that visit as one of the last times that he was truly himself. He's a trailer home in the Southwest. By the third week, Cameron was recovering at a remarkable rate, and so Devon began to pay Artie more visits and phone calls. Arturo's improvement was also rapid, but Cameron was left feeling a little sad that Artie never asked to talk to him, and would only ask Devon how the coyote was holding up. It made sense, he would tell himself. Devon and Artie go back further than even Devon and himself did. Sure, something had felt off, but considering the circumstances, nothing was normal at that time. But as the third week progressed, what had been bubbling below the surface made itself fully known. The only thing that seemed to be getting back to normal were his dreams. Sometimes he'd still wake up whimpering or crying, thinking he was back in Echo. Devon had it far worse, waking up in a howling panic, yelling about guns, chains, and death. Those were the times when Cameron did his best to give comfort and support, at least as best as his patched up and sore body could manage. But now, with some time between him and what happened, Cameron feels like a part of him is missing, like he's not fully present. It's like pieces of him littered the town of his trauma. It felt like he was still there in a way, and when that feeling really started to set in, that's when it happened. A small pressure in his right ear started to develop. It was something that he was sure that had to do with the hearing loss that he'd experienced from the shotgun blast. It was irritating and it felt bizarre. He had set up another appointment with Cameron's audiologist a few weeks from then. The hearing loss was likely permanent, but then something began to replace it. Right in the middle of the afternoon. April 2020. Cameron starts working again that week. He wants to feel useful again, and because they're both working from home now, it seems like a reasonable idea. Devon didn't want him starting yet, of course, but Cameron wants the sense of normalcy to come back faster, and his shitty job had seemed like the perfect solution. Trying to work with mostly one paw does come as a bigger challenge than Cameron had expected, not realizing how much he uses non-dominant one. Typing is particularly slow, but he was getting better at managing it. Still, it makes him sluggish, and even though his boss is understanding, even telling him to just forward any rude customers her way, it still leaves him occasionally flustered in ways that he isn't used to. After a rather harsh call that begins with, "Thank God, someone I can finally fucking understand," that ends with, "You know what would have been faster?" Cameron waits for the answer. "Anything. This is the last time that I buy some chink-ass phone made in some shitty factory." Cameron rubs his eyes, wondering how different the interactions would be if they did face-to-face video calls. This phone was actually assembled in the States after Julian pledged. It's not the answer that the man wants to hear. Cameron can tell before he even gets cut off. "Transfer me to your supervisor, please." "Of course. One moment." As Cameron reaches for the button to his boss's line, he hears the man muttering under his breath. Didn't know that they hired retards for customer service. Click. No big deal. He would get one of those every week, and according to his coworkers, it's gotten worse since the pandemic started. But why did that one hurt his feelings so badly? To the point that his eyes are welling up with tears. Maybe it's because he went through hell and back, and that man has no idea. No idea. Then, his computer screen seems to stretch far away, and Cameron finds himself grabbing the edge of his desk like he's about to fall over. Pressure grows in his right ear, and he realizes that maybe that's what's causing the strange feeling of being off balance as the world tilts. But no, he's tripping again. It's a flashback. Just a flashback. No, it's brain damage, and you'll probably feel like this forever. Ryan poisoned you. Cameron holds very still, positive that he didn't think those thoughts just now. And you are a fucking retard. Can't handle a literal customer stereotype. Just smash the keyboard and admit that you can't work anymore. Cameron brings the paw up to his right ear, where the voice came from. Is his headset still on, or... No. And you can tell that it's coming from inside your head, you idiot. You stupid fuck. Worthless. After that, Cameron remembers very little except panic, followed by confusion. A ton of confusion. His thoughts make no sense. The voice that is definitely not his thoughts. Doesn't make sense. And now he doesn't understand where he is. The voice continues to encourage him to smash the keyboard, so he does, just to see if maybe it will break this bizarre half-dream. Devon, in his own study, hears this. After finding Cameron sobbing on the ground, surrounded by black, plastic keycaps and bleeding from reopened stitches, a frantic Devon drives him to the hospital. Maybe it'll stop if you grab the wheel and turn into the medium. For old time's sake. And he doesn't even need a fucking fan. Look, Mom, no fans. The voice snickers. It continues to laugh at him all the way to the psychiatric ward. October 2020. About 7 months after Echo and 6 months after his episode, Cameron feels worse than he did right after Echo. The voice that had wormed its way into his damaged ear had disappeared after just a few days of antipsychotic treatment, but it returned again and again every few days. Whenever something upset him, whenever he gets into arguments with Devon, and really whenever it pleases, it makes itself known. It comes in a deep masculine voice, though sometimes it's Brian, like how it taunts and laughs at him. Short asides that were sometimes mean, sometimes meaningless, and sometimes boring, all about things Cameron would do and the people that he would see. It feels like it's trying to remind Cameron things aren't okay as weeks continue to come and go with manageable but clearly present psychotic symptoms. He had worried his broken arm would stop him from being able to play music as well as he used to. Turns out he didn't have to worry about that at all because he doesn't give a fuck anymore. Like a switch, his interests, his motivations, his wants to do anything productive or useful seem to just turn off. His thoughts process had been wrecked, and the disorganized thoughts during his episodes become present even when he wasn't having one. His mother said that she needed meth because it fought the feelings that her psychosis brought on, which was brought on by the meth. A vicious cycle. And speaking of which, he finally got his diagnosis. Schizophrenia, likely induced by the trauma and drug use in Echo. Not that it really matters what induced it, because the problem is that he has it. There's no taking that back after all. Propranolol for restlessness from akathisia, escitalopram for depression, trazodone for sleep and depression, topiramate for weight control, guanfacine for tics, and PTSD, and clozapam as needed for anxiety and panic attacks. His head tilts to the right just before coming back up in a sort of twitching movement, twice. Tick, tick. The symptoms of schizophrenia are devastating enough, but so are the side effects of the antipsychotics to treat it. Side effects that are covered up by the medications that cause even more side effects, which in turn are maybe even more tolerable. The first antipsychotic he tried made him too tired, and he was finally switched after 4 months. This switch aggravated the dopamine in his brain, according to his last psychiatrist, and for some reason, this meant that his childhood motor and vocal tics got to come back. Not just come back, but they came back with a vengeance, to the point that when he got especially emotional, his neck and sometimes his body would go into an uncontrollable twitching fit. At least he could hide it, or at the very least control it when he was younger. It makes him feel like some kind of freak show in public. His vocal tics would come up at the worst moments, and talking to anyone other than Devon would result in awful humiliations that sometimes triggered psychosis again. But when a vocal tic involving his diaphragm appeared, one that he'd never had before, Cameron really began to despair. It would force him to exhale for 10 to 15 seconds before holding it until he nearly blacked out. Then it would release and he would gasp in air again, vision coming back through blurry tears, only for it to happen half a dozen more times in agonizing waves. It was so distressing that each time it happened, it triggered an episode, and he'd be left with so many tics happening at once that even Devon couldn't communicate with him. The familiar tingling in his abdomen signaled the approach of another episode was enough to make him whine and cry in dread. All of this because of that damn pill that's supposed to help him. 3 or 4 of those vocal episodes every day for a week, and Devon had finally had enough and found a different psychiatrist. This helped a great deal, and Cameron found himself trusting her far more than he ever did his first psychiatrist. She immediately switched him to another antipsychotic, one that she said that would help his tics too. Still, when Cameron had been rating himself to take his first dose, he broke down, and he had cried like a child. He even begged Devon not to make him take it, which just made the whole situation so much worse. What if it caused more problems to show up? What if it made him worse? Cameron read about all the horrible, lifelong side effects that antipsychotics can cause. Dyskinesia, akathisia, dystonia, catatonia, and his old childhood bane that he had almost forgotten about, Tourette's syndrome. The word tardive can be placed in front of any of those symptoms, which means that even if you stop taking the drug, and even if years go by, the symptoms linger. And then there's always the worry that tolerance might build up, supersensitivity might set in, and the dosage might need to be increased, and then he might develop a treatment-resistant form of schizophrenia. All from these little pills wreaking havoc on the synapses of his brain. More poison, More brain damage. Cameron rubs his right ear vigorously. You're the brain damage, asshole. Fuck you, you brain damaged piece of shit. Why don't you take the whole bottle, pathetic faggot? Think you can just talk to me like that, fucker? Remembering the management techniques his therapist taught him, Cameron takes a deep breath. Okay. Time to take my medication. It's been a few weeks now, and my tics have decreased by over half, and I haven't had a breathing tic in 4 days. I feel like this is a good progress. What think is? Positive symptoms have decreased by maybe 40% over the last week. Good progress. I just hope my negative symptoms improve as well. That's my next goal, once I reach stability. His thoughts are his own again, and that makes Cameron feel at least a little bit better knowing that some things are coming easier. He begins opening his pill organizer and pulls out the most important one. His psychiatrist had been right, and for once Cameron feels like they might have at least found the right road to the new him. Despite tolerating paliperidone much better than the last antipsychotic, it still causes the same side effects that make him need to take all the other meds. At least it's making his tics better. Tick, tick, tick. Though he doubts that they will ever truly go away like they did in his childhood. Tardive Tourette's syndrome. Devastating on its own, but still controllable, manageable with time. He has to believe that. As the sound of the pills rattling against the plastic seems to echo through the kitchen, Cameron hears Devon in his study.
Oh, you taking it now? Just a sec.
That was fast. Cameron mutters under his breath, feeling just a little resentful knowing that Devon has been listening in on his thinking out loud technique. Cameron sighs and picks up the pill again, staring at it closely, as if able to see its molecular structure, engineered to block the dopamine receptors in his brain. The root cause of the psychosis, at least at the molecular level. It's more complicated than that. It always is. Devon comes in with just his underwear on. A year ago, it would have been a sight that Cameron would have appreciated. He probably would have put his arms around him and rubbed his face into his chest like he used to. But his sex drive was killed months ago, either from the meds or from one of the many symptoms of schizophrenia, and it's just another reminder that he's not who he used to be. While sex is the last thing on his mind, Cameron knows it's important in their relationship. He occasionally would force himself to do it and pretend to enjoy it, but everything aches now, and in the end he'll find himself staring at the ceiling. Devon noticed and eventually suggested that they wait until Cameron feels better, until he actually wants it himself, which only made Cameron feel worse. Devon's libido is stronger than Cameron's ever was, so he knows that it must be sexually frustrating for the bear. But right now, Devon is just standing there, smiling pleasantly as he watches Cameron. Making sure that you take your poison. He wants your brain damaged more than it already is. A jolt of fear, a dip into unreality. Cameron feels angry at how easily the voice slipped into his thoughts again. Useful poison. Cameron winces at the crazy coming out of his mouth. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud, if that's what you're wondering.
Okay, that's good. Remember, it does seem to act up right before you take your medication, so don't worry about it too much.
Yeah, but you know I don't need you to watch me anymore. It's quiet as Cameron swallows the pill, angling himself so that Devon can see. Then he follows it with the rest of the 5 or so pills that he holds in his paw. Cameron finishes swallowing those, knowing that in an hour, he won't be able to keep his eyes open. Right? Or do you still not trust me?
No, I agree with you. But we also agreed I will do it for at least a year, just in case. Even if you said you were fine. Remember?
Cameron hates the fact that he's right. Yeah, because you don't trust me. Spitefully, Cameron turns to show Devon the underside of his tongue, as if the bear might be suspicious that he's hiding it.
Cameron.
You want to do a cavity search too? Hey, maybe that can be our solution. I take my meds and you get to play with my ass. Cameron feels a burst of anger from Devon, and for some reason it feels good.
That's kind of a fucked up thing to say, don't you think? Is that what you even think I care about right now?
Devon's already sounding angry, quicker than he usually does, and suddenly they're in a fight. The ones that they never had before echo. Things must be getting extra stressful for Devon if it's this easy to provoke him, and Cameron should do something to help him, to soothe him, but instead he wants this fight. For a moment, he even wants Devon to hit him. Kill him. Grab one of the knives. To punch him right in the face and to end everything as they know it. Not much for them to lose anyway. Why are you all of a sudden intent on me taking my meds? Pretty different from college, right?
This is so different, Cameron. I know I tackled shit on psychology before. I acted like I knew what it was about. But like you say, everyone changes.
It's because I'm a problem to you now. And you just want me to take what'll make me not crazy, even if it makes me feel like shit.
I want you to get better.
I'm not gonna get better, Devon. This is permanent.
It doesn't mean you can get better. That's the point.
And then I'll relapse.
If you relapse, we help you get better again.
I don't even care about the stupid voices anymore, or even the tics. Fuck you. I'll make you care, you piece of shit. Tick, tick, tick. But it feels like my soul has been sucked out. And I don't know if it's the meds or the crazy or just me, but I hate it.
I hate it too. I hate it so much. I hate that you feel this way. That's why I'm doing this.
But you don't even have a fucking clue of what it's like. Everyone just talks about the voices and the hallucinations and the delusions. But what about the cognitive shit? I can't think. Nothing feels real, and I feel dead.
You're right, I don't. But you are all I think about almost every minute of the day because I see you suffer. And I want it to stop.
Lies, idiot. Fucking faggot. Hurt and kill him. I'm probably suffering because of the meds. It's like back in college, but 10 times worse, and I can't write or even listen to music anymore. I don't want to do anything.
That's the main reason people relapse. Positive symptoms go away. They think they are better. Then they stop their meds so the negative symptoms aren't as bad. And then they relapse. You need time. A year at least. And maybe then we can start tapering off. But not now.
And what if I do relapse? It's like only half of schizophrenics that even achieve a full 10-year remission. Medical literature he obsessed over pours out of his mouth. Shitty quality of life, up to 30 years of the average life expectancy, incurable.
Then we will try again. Right?
A burst of anxiety from Devon. While Cameron never thought that hard on what he might do, he does suppose that he'd consider ending it. If this is how the rest of his life will play out, he's sure that he will eventually. But only when Devon isn't here to take that blow. Hates you, wants you to die. The voice continues to talk and Cameron rubs his ear, trying to ground himself. Right. The obvious signs of Cameron having an episode seems to bring Devon back down as well. The bear quickly hugs Cameron.
I'm sorry.
Despite his sore and sensitive skin, it feels good after the burst of anger and sadness. I'm sad because I had such a good life with you, and it feels like it was just yesterday, but it's just gone now. It's strange that he can remember his past life so vividly, the feelings of being mostly normal in his brain. Devon squeezes him tighter.
You always talk about the new you, and how we just have to wait for him to get here. We will have a new life. It will just be a rough couple of months, maybe a bit longer.
Cameron sniffles. What day is it anyway? Like the 15th?
The 24th, I think.
I forgot that your birthday was last week. I just remembered now. Devon laughs.
Honestly, me too. The hardest part about that argument is that Devon completely empathizes with Cameron. He can't imagine being in that situation, made to take medication that changes him so fundamentally that he's not in full control of his movements or even breathing. The coyote is justified in being angry, sad, childish, and sometimes outright spiteful. That doesn't mean that it isn't unsettling seeing the coyote lash out and cry in ways that he had never seen him come close to before. At points, it feels like he's watching the deconstruction, or rather, destruction, of a life in real time. It leaves his stomach feeling hollow and sick, like it did days after Brian had a go at it. The thought of the old bear makes Devon so angry that now he wishes the man was still alive. At least, then there will be a chance for him to try and knock out a few more of his teeth during the victim impact statement. And the stress continues to build as Cameron's condition remains unstable. The transfer was scheduled for November, and Devon is trying to type up an extremely apologetic and professional email to explain the situation, and also request a possible meeting to delay the transfer. It's a reasonable request, especially considering the state of the world at the moment. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, his breathing picks up speed. Confused, Devon watches as the edges of his vision begin to darken. He can't figure out why he suddenly felt as if he were going to pass out. The first thing that comes to Devon's mind was Arturo's older brother, who died of a pulmonary embolism after surgery. That one that the cat had talked about casually while high, even though Devon knew he was still devastated by it. Devon stands up from his desk, walking, then sinking to the ground as the drum spins. "Come! I need help, please! I can't!" Before he can stop himself, he blurts out Cameron's name, simultaneously questioning whether that's a good idea or not. Cameron seeing his boyfriend die in front of him wouldn't exactly help his mental state, so it's probably better that he's sleeping like a rock right now. He pulls out his phone as he's on his knees, having pressed the 911, before a very groggy, sedated Cameron comes in, his expression of lyric confusion turning to fear. "Don't worry, I just can't catch my fucking breath." A look of recognition comes over the coyote's face, and kneeling in front of Devon, he presses the bear's head against his chest.
Devon, it's okay. We're okay. Breathe with me.
Devon's not sure what the problem is, but after a few seconds, it does stop.
Are you okay? I've never seen you like that before.
Devon sees Cameron's neck twitch multiple times, and immediately feels like an idiot. Here he is, having a stupid, breathless panic attack while Cameron is having vocal takes that force him to almost pass out from not being able to breathe. Devon tries to get him to go back to bed, but Cameron sleeps on the sofa in the study, determined to be there if Devon needs him again. And while Devon feels like he should be the one doing the comforting right now, he's glad to have Cameron there. So that's what the coyote feels like when he's panicking. A scary moment. But Devon doubts he will let the feeling sneak up on him again, now that he's familiar with it. He had considered therapy and medication, like he's constantly trying to find for Cameron. But a part of him has to admit that he's scared too. Besides, he's not bad enough that he needs that help. He will settle on what always helped him deal with stress in the past, which is being active. Exercise will be good for the both of them, actually. Once he sends this email, he will figure out how to renew both of their gym memberships, assuming the place is still even open. Devon steps out of the gym, taking a deep breath of the frigid February air. There aren't many cars or people on the street this early on a Saturday morning.
Probably because they're sleeping in like they should be.
Devon instinctively begins to reach out for Cameron's paw. He hasn't been there for a while now. Almost a year. Well, what he used to be is here, at home, in the urn sitting on Cameron's old dresser along with all the coyote's other little possessions that Devon had kept. It hurts even more because he's almost certain that Cameron will have loved this city. He will do a better job remembering that Cameron isn't right next to him if...
Quit thinking about me like I'm dead.
I'm not. I'm thinking about you like you're physically gone.
I do miss being physically present. I guess I could be dead, but it doesn't really matter.
You're not dead. I'm just like your vessel right now.
That is such a creepy word. Just say like I'm your passenger. By the way, you reek.
It's Saturday, and I don't have work. Besides, I'm not taking a shower when the air dryer temperature is room temperature.
I mean, I didn't say like I didn't like it. It's from a fresh workout.
Devon groans as he makes his way through the parking lot towards his car.
You were pushing yourself really hard, to be honest. Take it easier next time.
Thinking it is what got you hurt. Anyway, the more echoes we can kill off, the better.
I doubt that we can have that much of an impact, Devon. The shit is old. Ancient, even. It's a lot bigger than us in a lot of different ways.
I just want to see how well this works out. If it can be done, maybe we can tell others about it. Start a movement.
To kill off haunted places at the source? But how many people have their dead boyfriend in their head giving them psychic abilities?
Well, I won't tell them that part. Just the psychic part.
Ah, gonna take the credit for my abilities?
Hey, I'm learning to fight too. You see how much I have been bulking up. Devon flexes his muscles underneath his winter coat and padding. Muscles he wishes he had when he had fought Brian.
I didn't know that you could punch ghosts. And I wish that you'd get a different coach. He beats on you way too much.
I knew what I was getting into. Anyway, remember these hours. Usually, it's some shitty person feeding these places.
Oh, well, punching real people sounds worse, actually.
Either way, this is a good workout. You should. Devon catches himself halfway through saying it. Even though he knows it's coming, and even though he tries to stop it, the imagery of Cameron's ruined face flashes through his mind. He should just be happy that the coyote is still talking to him, that he's still with him. Kind of. I miss you.
Please don't do that, Devon. I'm right here.
I want to hold you.
You basically are, and I'm giving you a big emotional hug right now. I might as also be feeling out your muscles too, because you have bulked up nicely.
Devon laughs and wipes his eyes. Thanks, Cam.
Cameron watches all of this, but not that Cameron in Devon's head. The Cameron that avoided that gunshot, that survived. He's had these dreams a few times. At first, he simply thought them to be traumatic nightmares from a traumatic event. But this is one of those dreams that feels so real, he almost can't tell that he's dreaming. They're not really nightmares either. Usually they're mundane, kind of funny and kind of sad. The dreaming Cameron, for some reason, doesn't trust this passenger Cameron at all. This version of himself feels off, almost like there isn't even a soul to go with him. Otherwise, he sounds and acts just like he does, or did, before the diagnosis. It makes him wonder if he'd trade off given the opportunity. Cameron isn't waking up, so with little else to do, he reaches out mentally and digs into this other Cameron a little deeper. What he sees lasts only a second. After tearing out Brian's throat, this Cameron immediately began communicating with him. But he began speaking to Devon shortly after the younger bear had ripped out Brian's throat. It's not an illness, not like what Cameron has, but it's still Echo. It's part of the town, and Cameron doesn't want this Devon to. Devon, he's back. A feeling difficult to describe comes over Cameron. It's something from that dead Cameron, that entity that acts and talks like Cameron. That thing that's currently attached to that Devon. He's tied up, bound with rope with a foul-tasting rag gagging him. The big bear has been gone for over an hour, but no matter how hard he tries, he can't make the zip ties and chains move. And then his stomach churns, and the meal Brian had bought him at the bar starts to come back up. He's going to throw up, and he's chained down on his back, with a gag in his mouth. He's going to throw up, and then he's going to drown. Vomit floods its mouth. Cameron leaps out of bed, one paw over his muzzle. He stubs his toe horrifically on the doorframe to the bathroom, bending back the claw so that it's left bleeding and almost ripped out. But he makes it to the toilet in time to retch up the small amount of whatever it is in his stomach. His name was Alan, a rat, Cameron thinks, but the coyote can't remember the last name of the man who drowned in his own vomit. Cameron sobs, both for himself and for the poor, young rat that lived a short, hard life only for it to end by choking on the shitty food Brian lured him in with. After a minute, the coyote calms down and listens, thankful that Devon is an incredibly heavy sleeper. What he'd seen definitely happened, and even though the police stopped trying to interview him after learning about his schizophrenic diagnosis, he would still put in an anonymous tip tomorrow. Cameron knows that there's at least twice as many victims that the police know about, and he plans to report every single one that he sees. Summer 2021. Half a year later, Cameron finally starts to feel as if he's starting to live life again. Not his old life, but a new, unfamiliar one. Tapering down his meds along with exercising definitely helped, which is why that he came with Devon to visit Arturo. When he sees his old friend, he feels a bit better, just based on the shape of his amalgamation. It's a bit more full, and while it's still damaged, it's also at peace. Cameron knows that feeling. He's different now, and he's accepted that. But he's still Arturo, which the cat has come to accept too. He's just different now, changed, like everyone changes. A terrible, dramatic change, but one that can happen to anyone. Things always tend to get worse, but then they tend to get better too. And Cameron knows this just by looking at Arturo. Well, the coyote did just want to see his old friend. He also wanted to know a few other things. His methods are morally questionable, but he justifies it since he's tired of being kept in the dark. An hour before they got there, Cameron eats a piece of chocolate from the backpack that he brought from his stay at a motel. Devon complains when Cameron says that it was the last one, but the coyote knows the bear would lose his mind if he knew what exactly Cameron did. And that was microdosing psilocybin. Stupid, idiotic, unbelievable when it could cause him severe lasting damage. Idiot. It might have been what triggered his schizophrenia, but his abilities increased tenfold even on this tiny amount. Besides, it made him feel better. Of course, he'll tell Devon when more time has passed, but the bear has shown about zero interest in the paranormal as of late. Maybe he'll just tell him that he's taking it for the mood lift. For now, he just wants to take it in the emotions and conversations. Well, what I'm trying to do is get rid of this damn limp. What people notice most if I'm not talking. Cameron smiles pleasantly, despite the fact that Arturo is more guarded and fortified mentally than anyone else he's met, which is the last thing that he had expected. I actually didn't even notice. Ah, well, you will next time you see me walk. Anyway, I hear you're working on your master's, Devon? Every stutter, every struggle feels like a physical blow to Cameron, but he tries not to show it. He knows Artie doesn't want useless pity right now, and Cameron always hated it too.
Yep. Up at the University of Deseret.
Sweet. In what? Mechatronics or...
Robotics.
Of course. And how's that, how's that progressing?
Good. Just finished my first semester.
And the place that you're working at? They're financing it? That's really quick.
I'm at the same company. It was always part of the plan once we moved. I still gotta graduate for them to reimburse my tuition, of course.
No pressure. I don't know how he does it all. Work, school, cooking, gaming, and you're good at it, all of it. That's just like him. He'd party and drink the night before a final, then ace it while hungover. Cameron is close enough to Devon to see the skin flush under his fur. While some might find Devon to be overly humble, It was more to do with a sort of imposter syndrome. Cameron knows it must be awkward to be praised for not having to study or work as hard as his fellow students and co-workers. Despite that, Cameron still feels proud knowing that his boyfriend is actually inching into a leadership position at the company. He has no doubt that the bear will be doing incredible things in his career.
So, how are things going for you? What are you doing these days? Weren't you thinking going back to work at that special ed school?
Yep, Spectrum Solutions Academy, and I'm already back. Went back as soon as I got vaccinated. Still at RBT, working with the kids with low-functioning autism.
How is it?
Great. It was almost like going back home. I'm supposed to have like 2 clients, but they've got about 5 on me now. They're really so happy to see me, but they can tell something's a bit off about me though. Sounds a bit rough. Is your recovery still going well? Artie visibly draws into himself a bit. I like to call it a process these days. Most of the recovery is over, I think. Oh, I see. It's silent for just a few seconds too long. Cameron's slow response is mainly due to being distracted, having fully deciphered Artie's general thoughts, feelings, and emotions. In that moment, the guard had slipped, and Cameron realizes Artie knows he's psychic. Of course, he told him that, but he now knows it, truly believes it, and for the past almost 2 years, he'd realized how much of this happened because of Cameron. Arturo is afraid of Cameron. The cat senses the strangeness, the offness of who Cameron is now. Arturo also wonders if it's possible that the coyote brought a piece of Echo into the house with him. That shadow entity, it injured him and never came back out as far as Arturo knows. Who's to say that it's not still?
Maybe it's like a management phase? That's what Camp calls it anyway, right, honey?
Devon, probably confused by the tension, tries to add more to the conversation. That's right. That piece of shit hurt you pretty badly too, huh? Yeah, really, it's the schizophrenia that I was diagnosed with afterwards that I'm still trying to manage. Cameron suddenly decides to just tell Arturo about his own struggles, if only to look for some sympathy, understanding. It seems unfair not to tell him, for some reason anyway. For a moment, Arturo's expression becomes one of genuine sadness. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, Cameron. Was it from what happened? I hope it wasn't the weed. No, I think it's what happened after that pushed me over the edge. I see. That makes sense. Do they think that it would have happened anyway? Eventually? Cameron shrugs. Maybe. They think that I might have been in a prodromal state for years. It's obvious that I was on the brink for a while. But he'll never know. For that moment, though, he feels like he and Artie have made a connection. Artie understands that they have completely different problems, but they're both life-changing, and the two of them are bound to these problems for the remainder of their lives. But then Artie senses a darkness, that little bit of echo emanates from Cameron again, and he mentally recoils.
It's been a rough road, but we managed to find some stability at the end of last year.
God, it's such a pain in the ass trying to settle on the right meds. That took Maria a few years, I think. Hey, Maria! There's some rustling from the hallway and a young leopard comes into the living room, Maria clearly having been very nearby in the hall. Where'd you go? Just wanted to give you guys some peace. We were just talking about how long it takes to adjust to the meds. Maybe you can give them some advice again? She leans in to give Arturo a kiss, and Arturo takes it without a single hint of embarrassment or annoyance. Another solid rock in Artie's life, and one that will stay until the end. While Cameron would normally never invade someone's mind like this, the coyote doubts that he'll have many chances to do so again in the future, and he needs to know if Artie's on a good track or not. Maria turns to Cameron, and because they themselves have been friends for years, even a little longer than he's known Devon, he can tell that this is a weirdly set up. Oh yeah, antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers. It feels like I've been through almost all of them. Yeah, it makes me want to sleep all day, but also tear out my fur and crawl out of my skin. Cameron likes Maria a lot, and just like Devon and Arturo, They slip back into the old swing of things. It's nice, but he can't help but notice how he's been swept out of the conversation with Arturo. Anyway, the main reason that I went back to work this early is because I needed something normal. Sure, things are harder now. Stuttering, memory is shit. Can't really depend on the right side of my body anymore. But fuck, it is nice not being cooped up in here living on disability. But the only thing that work has complained about is that I guess my inhibitions are a bit lower than they used to be.
I swear, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I haven't even noticed that.
Oh yeah, they said something about too many words, too little tact, like 3 years ago, so I'm pretty sure it's just me. I can kinda tell that it might be affecting you now, but sometimes it's hard to tell the side effects from the symptoms of psychosis, especially the residual negative symptoms. I mean, positive symptoms are obvious, but making your thoughts flow normally again, making yourself want to go back outside, talk to people, live, that tends to come back last, and sometimes it comes back a bit different. Sometimes doesn't come back at all. Now, while he tries to hold a conversation about psychotropic medications with Maria, he realizes how much things have changed. In fact, if Cameron's visions hold true, this will be one of the last of a handful of times that he'll speak to Artie. It hurts. It leaves Cameron feeling a deep bit of guilt, shame, and even a little anger, but mostly because it's unfair, and he can't blame anyone. But as he watches his old friend laugh and talk to Dev, almost like what happened never happened, Cameron sees a long, solid friendship ahead of them, and he's happy for that. Cameron realizes, even without having to read minds, that Maria is specifically there to keep Cameron distracted, to keep him away from Arturo. That finally shuts up the psychic part of Cameron's brain. Rather than leaving a hollow feeling, he's left feeling like he's been punched. Why are they treating him like a monster? Like he's the one. The final thought that he receives is from Maria, and deep down, under the concern for Cameron's diagnosis, she's wondering if he's prodding at Arturo's mind. Arturo can sense him. His own sensitivity is subtle, almost too understated to be picked up on, but it's there, and that's why he feels like Cameron is carrying Echo with him. Cameron is mainly worried that Arturo knows that he's doing it right now, and his neck and cheeks become warm as he feels like he's been caught in the act. Maria mentions something about how she has tardive dyskinesia, and Cameron focuses back on the conversation, genuinely curious if it's gotten better for her with time. And that's how the rest of the afternoon plays out. The reason that he'll only see Artie 2 or 3 more times in his life isn't because of Arturo or Maria. It's because Cameron knows that he can't come back here and cause them stress like this. Cameron is no longer part of or welcome in their lives, and he won't impose himself again. Despite the hurt from learning their true feelings about him, Arturo's future is, if he has to sum it up, a happy one.
March 2023. Time continues on its steady, unrelenting march, and it brings with it both good and bad. The pandemic falls into the background. Political instability comes to the forefront. Money becomes tighter. But the world keeps moving, as it tends to do. It still leaves Devon almost breathless at the idea that he had changed their lives in one weekend. While Devon has never really personally hated anyone to the point that he just wanted to hurt them, he does now. But that person is dead. He got the easy way out. For the first year, Devon wasn't sure how he would continue his life. Cameron was either always sedated to the point of almost becoming unresponsive, or angry and sad to the point that he would just sit in the bathroom and cry. The feeling of helplessness, of knowing that Cameron wanted to be dead, that he had given up so much that he even told the bear he would take opiates again if he could. And so, Dev started doing things he didn't want to do, checking Cameron's drawers, pockets, and his side of the closet when he wasn't around. He's angry at the medical professionals who sent Cameron home because he simply had intrusive thoughts. This had relieved Cameron, though Devon wasn't sure. In fact, he knew it wasn't right. But Cameron was so happy it seemed to stop the episode. Then, over the next 2 days, he was in a deep psychotic state. His intrusive thoughts were actually thought insertions, and by the time they got back to the hospital, he was screaming that he was actually dead. He accused Devon of planting speakers in the walls and cameras in the mirror, which he shattered. Over that first month, it was a normal sight to see Cameron sitting up on bed, brushing away non-existent bugs, completely unresponsive to anything Devon would say. But that's 2 years behind them now, and Cameron is finally starting to really live and become someone who enjoys life again. Because while the positive symptoms of delusions, hallucinations, and depersonification had been practically absent over the past year, the negative symptoms lingered. Devon had read about that over and over again. Lack of motivation, lack of interest in things that once gave pleasure, lack of expressive emotions, and moments of confusion, and disorganized thought. It was the anhedonia that scared Cameron the most. It scared Devon too, because what's a life worth living if you don't want to do the things you trained and aspired to do most of your life? Despite listening to music again, Cameron decided a few months back to finally hang up his guitar. Cameron's paw was still weak and would have a slight tremor if he held it up. But Cameron hadn't touched his keyboard either, left unplugged and dusty in their basement. The sight made them far more sad than it did Cameron. He still wonders if he had been more of an advocate for Cameron, maybe pushed for further observation, they could have stopped the psychosis before it truly spiraled. Maybe he will be his old self.
What's wrong?
You're reading my mind again?
No, I can read your face.
Devon doesn't want to bring down Cameron's mood. He's the one that wanted to come out and walk in the snow, and if Cameron wants to do something engaging and active, Devon will do it with him. It is strange that they got so much of it in March, and it will probably be the last snowfall. I'm just realizing how out of shape I am. Do you think I'm starting to get a gut? Like, a bad one?
Are you on the thinner side for a bear nearing your 30s?
Cameron makes a point of looking at Devon's midsection, then prods through it, making the bear huff.
Whoa, it's kinda squishy.
Devon blushes. You caught me by surprise, and you just got done saying I wasn't fat.
You're not fat. You're a bear. I just didn't think that I'd feel the pudge through your coat.
Cameron tries again, but as expected, Devon is tensed up and there's little squishing to be had this time. Let's sit down. Devon brushes snow off a bench for them.
Hey, I hope I'm not annoying you.
Devon closes his eyes in guilt, taking a deep breath. No, I'm just worried about different things. I'm happy to be out of here with you. It's good for my gut anyway.
Cameron rolls his eyes as they sit down. I'm getting chubbier too, you know. It happens, and I love your body. If you want to fool around tonight, I can have a closer look. Cameron leans against Devon's shoulder.
Only if I get to have a good look at you too.
Deal. And if we deem each other to be too chubby, we can go on a diet or something. Devon finds it strange that Cameron is the one usually cheering him up now. The coyote is worried about him, and Devon wishes that he wouldn't be. Still, it makes him feel warm inside, and he leans in to nuzzle Cameron. As he kisses his coyote, he realizes that this is a good moment in his life. A day that he'll look back at fondly. A day that he'll look back on for comfort when harder days inevitably arrive. Devon glances up at the temple that they're sitting across the street from.
I always wonder what that golden dude with the stick is doing up there.
It takes Cameron a few seconds to understand what Devon is talking about. The guy at the top of the Mormon temples? That's the angel Morani, and he's holding a horn. He's buried the golden plates.
How do you know that?
Some Mormon friends told me.
Oh. Cody? The bull?
Yeah.
You thinking of converting?
Maybe if they ever became okay with this. Cameron leans close to Devon again. Devon smiles and they hold each other for a while. Something's on Cameron's mind though, but Devon knows to wait until the canine is ready. Devon, did you ever find what you were looking for? Devon immediately knows what Cameron's referring to, and it makes his stomach twist into knots. I'll only bring it up this once, but I keep thinking about why we went in the first place. I just wonder if you were able to, figure stuff out. Devon stares down at Cameron, and even though the coyote isn't intentionally pointing out Devon's cascade of failures into catastrophic failure, he feels it.
I figured that it doesn't matter. It isn't worth finding out. And that I need to focus on us.
Devon feels the sting of tears in his eyes, but forces it back.
I figured I made a huge mistake and deeply hurt my friends.
Ryan hurt us. Cameron says it almost instantly. You just don't seem as happy or outgoing as you used to be. I know we're really busy with work and you just got your master's degree, which is so cool, but you seem...
Hey, it's like you said. We change. It's not really a divide, right? It's like chapters in our lives. We change with each one, and the last one we went through was brutal.
Yeah, nothing stays the same. We don't fully recover or become who we used to be. And still, we always want to go back to how it used to be. Devon feels a deep twinge in his chest, thinking about what life would be like now if he just made the right turn. It's like how they say that you can never go home again, because home isn't just a place, but it's people, and it's a certain time, and when it ends, it ends. You can never get it back.
Baby, I love you so much. And I know it sounds dumb as hell, but I can be your home, and I will be around as long as you want me to be, so you can always be home.
I always will. Sorry if it was sounding depressing. I honestly feel at home with you. You're the only home that I've got. But you know what's weird?
Mm-hmm.
I sense a lot from that temple, and I sense it from other spiritual places too, like those Buddhist shrines in Huxia Town, and even those little shops where you see mediums and psychics. It feels like they're taking an energy and letting energy out too, like a portal.
Huh. What do you think that means?
I guess that there's hope for everything. Lupita, Artie, you and me, and that maybe instead of nothing, there's... Devon, overwhelmed with grief, happiness, love, and loss, kisses Cameron. They kiss for a long time, and Devon desperately hopes his Cameron is right, because more than anything, he wants to start fresh again and do it right. For now, though, he's here with his husband, sitting and watching the snow fall silently, and that's okay. Because what? Because whether they disappear forever or go somewhere else, it'll be together. Devon feels a little hope reignite in his chest. There might be something. There might be nothing. But he's content to wait and find out. But that will be a long ways away, he's sure. Not until they're 110 after all. The end. I have no idea how much I was holding that back. So, I guess you could say the story is technically over. There is still a short story to be released in the coming months, hopefully soon. uh, I kind of hope that it's about Devon, or maybe Arturo, or who knows, maybe it'll be about Brian and how it got this bad. I mean, we know how it got here, and he mentions it in Echo, basically how bad his childhood was. But yeah, about the story itself, it was written by Howley, and it was basically inspired a lot by things that he is still going through. So that's why this particular, I guess you could say, prologue was it took a while to come out, because he didn't. It was basically him pouring out a part of himself, and he wanted to feel comfortable with it. If you're part of the Echo Discord, you probably read it when the Patreon bill was going to come out, where it was delayed because he didn't feel that it was ready yet. But yeah. On a personal level, since the very beginning, I felt like a weird little connection with it, I guess you could say. A lot of what Cameron mentions when he's talking to Devon at the beginning resonated with me on a personal level, about like his mom, what she went through and stuff like that, and how he behaved. During that period. Also, when Artie is when he's struggling to try to get help, and he is thinking about what'll happen, you know, if he makes it out or if he doesn't make it out, how his girlfriend Maria will be able to basically live without him, because she was basically dependent on him. And I'm sure that has already changed by now, where they have developed their own personal support system, where she supports him, he supports her still. And like, yeah, and that hit very close to home. Especially right now. But yeah, trying to calm down to be more coherent. I'm really happy, thankful that Howley released this story. I think this one, it maybe in case of emergency, were some of like my favorite stories. And you know, obviously I like Echo, I like Ad Astra, and other stories, but like this one in particular has like really, I guess, touched by how I am currently talking. And yeah, I'm really thankful that he wrote it, that he put himself out to write this. So if he ever hears this, I am very thankful, Howley. Who knows, maybe one day I'll see if he is able to do a little interview for maybe like Echo and Archis, since these are his stories. And I'll be able to tell him personally. But yeah, anyways, so what are your thoughts on Archis, on like the whole story and its ending? Did you like it? Were you like hoping that they would kill Brian? And speaking of that, speaking on that last scene where Brian dies, the alternate universe and what could have happened, where we have an Echo Cameron, that kind of confirms something that I had thought of since way past an Echo, when I was reading Echo, I mean, where all the thing that's happening, everything that is happening in the town, all the ghosts, the voice inside of Chase's head, and also that was inside of Sydney's head, and everything, including the voice that is inside of alternate universe Devon's head, are all literally just echoes that are created from whatever it is that is in the land of Echo. That it sort of just feeds on how you react to these things and how they were born. And I think in this universe, in the main universe story where Cameron survives, perhaps the town is already starving because the person that was feeding it was Brian. And in the alternate universe, I think the person that is unwillingly feeding it is Devon now. So that's an interesting thing to think of. And this is coming from me being partially not spoiled, but being told kind of about how Echo operates, meaning the land and what lives there. The way I always thought it was sort of like a spider, and the land itself is a spider web where at the minute you step into it, you are stuck there. Even if you quote unquote get out, you're still stuck there and the spider is still feeding off of you. And that's kind of also why, the reason I'm picking spider isn't just because of what the monster you see in the smoke room, but because there is a lot of spider imagery in Echo, the original story, and there's even a little bit of spider imagery in Ad Astra, with the stone-like arachnid thingy that freaks everyone out, and the hallucination that Marco has in that story too. And even though it doesn't really appear in Archis that much anymore, it's still sort of like, you can think of it as a predator that lives there, and if you step into its territory, it'll feed off of you, and it feeds off the misery of these people, because it's not good memories. But yeah. Anyways, so write down in the comments what you thought of the story, or at least this part. And like I said before, I will probably redo some of the videos when the visuals get even more updated later on, when the other short story is released. So you could rewatch it when I do. I would appreciate it. Or you could just watch the ones I have right now, and you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that I'm not really comfortable with the audio. But yeah. Anyways, and I appreciate it that if you watched all my Archis videos and you reached this one, and yeah. Anyways, so thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play Archis yourself, you can do so by going down into the link in the description for the Echo Project Twitter page, which should have a direct link to the itch.io page for Archis. And if you would like to support the Echo Project, which has made these wonderful stories, Archis, Echo, Ad Astra, and they're gonna restart Camilla now, along with Interia, and there's still the Smoke Room, which is the prologue for Echo, standalone prologue, and then there's other stories like Glory Hounds, and I think it's Play Your Role, or something like that. I keep forgetting what the name is, but yeah, if you want to read those stories yourself, or at least get early access to those stories, and sometimes behind the scenes, and then artwork and CGs ahead of before anyone else gets them, subscribe to the Echo Project Patreon. if you haven't already. But yeah, so also if you would like to support me and give me, pay, like, what's it called? Give me a coffee or whatever. I will post down in the description the link to my coffee. Also, before I forget, because I have forgotten to do this, I want to thank Bear or Burngrove. Well, we call him Bear in person. My friend who agreed to do the voice of Devon and who did it through all these videos, and who's also been doing some other voices for some other videos here and there. So yeah, I want to thank him for having stuck around to do to be my Devon, the Devon to my Cameron. But yeah, it was fun doing videos with him, and I look forward to doing more videos with him and having him participate on a larger scale, I guess. Also to Orion for chatting up with me about when an Arches update would release, and then we will talk about it a little too. So yeah. Anyways, so I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next videos. Bye bye.